The James Show Podcast.
But nationally speaking, the hottest story that was trending on Google all weekend and today, Epstein list, because there's a little back and forth here. And it's fun watching the media try and report on this because they've really painted themselves into a corner. Because you feel like they want to say, well, whoever is hiding the list is obviously guilty. But their guy and their team just hid the list for 4 years. And so it's fun to watch the mental gymnastics because so many people, not everyone in the media, but for many people, especially the ones that get a lot of sound bites on this show, their modus operandi is what can we report today that makes Trump look bad? And so it's fun to see them twist themselves into knots trying to do this story in a way that they can make Trump look bad, but it exonerates their side, and they're not doing a very good job of it. However, there are plenty of adults having real conversations and real theories on this. Now, one of the most interesting ones is Alan Dershowitz. He's a lawyer, used to work for the Clintons back in the day. He was actually one of the people on Epstein's legal defense team when he killed himself, supposedly, in jail. So Alan Dershowitz has seen the list. He had access to the videos. I don't know if he sat down and watched all of them. I doubt it. I bet he watched some of them. But he's a guy who actually knows names. Now, he can't say anything because he was a lawyer, whatever. Confidentiality goes along with that. But there's guys that were on Jeffrey Epstein's defense team. There's the prosecutors. They know the list. They're the people that were defending Ghislaine Maxwell in court, and the prosecutors. They know the list. So, I mean, it's kind of a secret list, but there are people who know it. And I don't think it can be hidden forever. So when Alan Dershowitz shared his theory on it this weekend, I grabbed it for you.
So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed, and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything. And let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused.
Yeah, so how do we know the names of all the people involved in the Puff Daddy trial? How do we know about Cassie? How do we know about, who's that lady that was 50 Cent's baby mama that was rolled up in there? She was like Jane Doe number 8 or whatever. Well, we've figured out her name. We know Meek Mills rolled up into it. We know all kinds of names from that trial. You got to hear every sentence of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. Why not this one? Why do we know nothing about this one? Obviously, people are being protected. Victor Davis Hanson, similar theory without the inside knowledge that Alan Dershowitz had. But he's convinced as well the Epstein list is being suppressed by the elites.
I think it's pretty clear now that Epstein had no talent other than blackmail, and he was not a financier. He was not a captain of finance at all. What he did is he invited very powerful people to his island or his New York home, filmed them, and then he bribed them, and he shook them down and said, I'm going to be your quote-unquote financial advisor, and in exchange for that, I'm not going to release all that stuff. And whether, there were some pretty big people. So why isn't it being exposed? Because I think there are people in the establishment. I don't know if they partook in his sick things he was doing, but they feel they have some association with him, and they have they gave him money to invest when there was no reason to hire someone like that. There were much better financial gurus, but he got $500 million somehow from people who were mainstream establishmentarians on the basis that he was going to blackmail him. I think that's how he made his money. And I think those names are numerous. And I think the Trump administration thought, well, we're going to release this, and there's some crazy people that we don't care about are going to be embarrassed. And then all of a sudden, they got a lot of calls and said, why are you doing this? I didn't do this. I went down to the island once. I was on a plane. I didn't touch anybody. And they're saying, and now you're going to release my name and I'll be guilty by, I'm not going to. And I think that's what's happening.
All right. I got to credit the folks over at the Glenn Beck show for that, Blaze Network. Yeah, Victor Davis Hanson. I think you're absolutely right. Let's ask Alan Garland, 800-288-9227. Hey, Alan Garland, you're on WBAP.
Sure. Yes. Now, once again, you and I don't really care because we don't run in those circles. But once again, let's say Trump isn't on that list. He runs in circles with people that are, and he's not going to release that list. Think about if it was you, and let's say that your wife's uncle was on the list, or your best high school friend, he was on the list. Mm-hmm. I don't know you'd be in such of a hurry to release that list either.
No, agreed. There's some sort of personal connection going on here. That's the only thing that makes sense because it's an irrational turn of events here, how they were promising to release it. They did the phase one. They even talked about it after the election. If he was on the list, he wouldn't have been hyping it up all the way until last week. So, yeah, there's something going on there, Al. There's something. Well, here's where it gets crazier. What if, and I'm not saying he is, I'm just throwing the what if Benjamin Netanyahu's on the list?
Well, yes, that's exactly what I am saying. There could be world leaders on that list. There could be a Supreme Court justice on the list.
God, you're so right.
I have never thought that list, just like those JFK files that were kind of almost released, they're never going to release those. Never.
Well, I don't know about never, but in our lifetime, it's right. Kind of looking unlikely. I good stuff, Alan Garland. Let's check in on our economy for a second. Richard Stern from Heritage Foundation, America's #1 conservative think tank out of Washington, D.C. Welcome to the James Show. There's a lot of headlines that are getting attention, and I think one of the ones that's being missed is how well the economy's doing, Richard.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on to talk about it, and you're absolutely right about that. Unemployment's down, jobs are up, wages are up, the stock market's at all-time highs. It just goes to show cutting taxes and deregulation are the right way to get the prosperity.
Well, is there any nervousness in you about the upcoming tariff deadline that's about to happen?
Oh, for sure. But, at the same time, though, look, early in the tariff negotiations, the stock market went all over the place. I think we all know the bond market freaked out, which is actually why a lot of the tariff negotiations happened the way they did. But, the fact that the stock market was completely calm with the tariff announcements means that that they have Trump's back, that the market now understands what Trump is trying to do, how he negotiates, how he makes deals, and more importantly, that they have faith in the deals he'll negotiate and the way he will go about doing it.
Well, we already have a bunch of trade deals that have been announced. Are the biggest ones out of the way? Because I don't care if we have like a tariff war with Tajikistan or something, but if we got China, UK, and some of these other big players squared away, I think the most dangerous part is behind us.
Mostly, and I think you're probably right about that. I would caution, though, there's certainly some big questions that are still on the table, certainly with China. So we have frameworks in place, and they're very good ones. China is going to send more critical minerals to the United States, which just feeds our industrial base, which is a nice thing, of course, a nice change of pace. But I think you're right, though. Most of the danger is gone. We'll see how some of these things shake out. I'll tell you some of the other things that I'm looking at that I'm encouraged by is we've had countries, small and large, that try stealing our IP and taxing the kind of, software and intellectual products that we produce in the U.S. And Trump is using these tariff threats to get them to stop. And again, to your point, that's low risk, but actually high reward to those critical industries here.
Well, what's the enforcement mechanism on somebody like a China? They're stealing our IP. How do we punish them? Because they've agreed to stop stealing it before, and then they just keep doing it, and we don't do anything about it. So how, if you had your druthers, Richard, how would you enforce this?
No, exactly. But, part of the problem is, and you're right, it's hard to be able to actually enforce this on some other foreign country. But I'll tell you the thing that's different. We've had presidents before that have had these handshake agreements. The Chinese Communist Party says, oh, yeah, we won't steal this, we won't do that. But they know that they're billionaires who send, literally Xi Jinping's daughter goes to Harvard. They come here to vacation, they have homes here, yachts here, they send their kids to college here, and we don't freeze their assets. We don't ban them from coming to the country. We don't kick them out of our institutions. What's happening right now is they understand that's different, that There's certainly the tariffs, which can ruin anybody's day, certainly on their side of the ocean as well. But that we're willing, finally, we've got a president who's really willing to go after them, if it's their assets or travel visas or whatnot, and that changes the game.
We're talking with Richard Stern from Heritage Foundation. I can't get past what you just said. Xi Jinping's daughter goes to Harvard. The American taxpayer is subsidizing the elite education of the biggest communist in the world.
Absolutely. But are you really that surprised and shocked by it?
I just heard it for the first time now, so maybe no, I guess not. I guess not. Like, there is no limit to who can go to Harvard. Just not me, Richard.
So I'll tell you this. Look, I've been in D.C. doing budget policy for 11 years. When most people hear that, they start to fall asleep before I even give the lecture. But, this is why people like myself, the people around me in this world, this is why we have been screaming for so long to cut government spending, because when you're in the weeds on this is everything the government does. I mean, we fund, pro-transitioning kids stuff on NPR and, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and you name it. We've foreign aid dollars that go to terrorists that run these countries. And when you're in the budget world, you see up close and personal just how much money is being stolen from American workers and used in these nefarious ways or handed off to these people that hate us.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just heard a brief little spit of music there. We're talking with Richard Stern from Heritage Foundation about the economy. Now, we have stock markets at record highs. You're supposed to buy low, sell high. Are people supposed to get out of the market now? Because it feels like just the beginning of a new wave to me.
Oh, I agree. I think it's absolutely. But, part of that is, again, we have historic deregulation. That's going to pay dividends for years to come. We just passed this new tax bill that, for decades, every other country on the planet has been changing their tax code to actually reward investment, to reward people for building new factories and hiring people. The U.S. for decades has had one of the most punitive tax systems on investment and economic growth. Now, Trump changed a little bit of it the first time he was president, but most of that was temporary. So what you have now, for the first time ever in U.S. history, is a permanent tax reform that gets rid of that penalties on actually growing the economy and building factories here. So I agree. This is just the start of a great thing.
All right, well, let me give you one area of concern, Richard, is that if we're still going to be running $2 trillion deficits every year, I expect inflation to come back.
Oh, absolutely. But, if you've looked at Bitcoin prices recently, I think a lot of the market does as well. And, I think it's an important thing to remember that, as Milton Friedman once said, the true burden of government isn't its taxes, it's the spending. Because however the government gets the money to spend, whether it's printed or borrowed or taxed, it comes out of your pocket.
Yes, that's the old Milton Friedman quote. The real taxation is government spending. So, Richard Stern, Heritage Foundation, thank you very much for the chat on the economy.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
It's fun to talk to guys like Richard Stern when the economy's doing well. Boy, some people, they just, they really care about the plight of illegal immigrants in this country. More so than the American citizens, it would seem. Because Debbie Wasserman Schultz was part of another congressional delegation that went to another ICE facility. We saw the one at Delaney Hall in New Jersey where Representative McIver got herself in trouble and catching charges. We've seen a couple of trips with Jayapal and some other squaddies and squadlings to a facility in Arizona. And then Alligator Alcatraz, of course, been getting a lot of attention. Debbie Wasserman Schultz went down there, and she's trying to convince you that Alligator Alcatraz is a horror show and it's inhumane and you should hate Trump for doing this because he's just literally Hitler. Because who on earth would treat other human beings like this? But while she sounds passionate and she's using a lot of, very strong adjectives in there. In fact, she's just adding adjectives like a Mad Lib over here. When you actually digest what she's talking about, or if you look at the pictures and video of what she's talking about, not only is it not shocking, it's exactly what you expect. What happens if you get sent to jail or a detainment facility? What happens? Well, you're not going to be allowed to roam freely. You're going to be caged in, right? You're not going to get a fantastic master bathroom that's the size of a baseball infield with walk-in closets. You got a tub with a jacuzzi. You've got the walk-in shower with the big rain shower head above you. You got the opulent his and her sinks. No, it's going to look kind of like a jail. What about the food? Are you going to get, some 5-star? Are they ordering in from Three Forks? Or is it probably just going to be like a bologna sandwich? So listen to Debbie Wasserman Schultz trying to scare the American people and just come up with reasons to hate Trump. I mean, they just hate Trump so much. It makes them sound ridiculous.
They are using cages. These detainees are living in cages.
Can you believe that? Someone in jail's in a cage? I mean, not only am I not surprised by that, it's the most expected thing ever. Even free-range chickens have cages. Do you know that?
The pictures that you've seen don't do it justice. They are essentially packed into cages, wall-to-wall humans, 32 detainees per cage. That is the only thing inside those cages are their bunk beds, and there are 3 tiny toilets that are toilet units that have a sink attached to it. So they essentially drink, they get their drinking water, and they brush their teeth where they poop.
All right, so that's exactly what you expected, right? What do you think is in a jail cell? What do you think is in a prison cell? What do you think is in an ICE detention facility? Well, a bed and probably one of those toilet sink things, because that's what's in every jail cell, right? So are you not shocked? I'm not shocked by that. She's acting like you're supposed to be shocked. But it's an interesting situation here because she's so concerned about the plight and condition that these illegal immigrants are living under in these detention facilities. Has she ever visited a jail on behalf of American citizens under the exact same conditions? Has she ever visited a jail cell that's small? Because a lot of them are smaller than what you've seen. She's like, there's 32 people in one of these. Yeah, in that big old room with all the bunk beds, they actually have more space than if you went to jail. They have more space than Lou Sterrett, which is just half a mile away from where I'm broadcasting now. If you went to jail, the conditions are better than you had. Unless you went to Addison. I had a roommate whose hobby was getting arrested in different municipalities in DFW. And he actually said Addison's was the nicest. So there you go, Addison. In fact, he said when you go back to your jail cell after your rec time, they left you a mint under the pillow in Addison. That's how nice it is. I'm kidding. But no, Debbie, not only am I not shocked, sounds like the most normal thing in the world. Sounds like exactly what I expected. I'm just kind of shocked that you've never had a press conference on behalf of American citizens who are facing this. The January 6ers all had facilities that were worse than this. No concern there. No visits there. See, they fall all over themselves concerned about illegal immigrants, but not about Americans. That's the opposite of America first. And also, when they show you the detention facility, can you believe that they just have to poop? And they don't have their own stall or private bathroom. They're just kind of out in the open. They have no privacy. All their facilities are just seen by everyone else, and they have to change clothes and go to the bathroom and use the sink, and everyone can see them. Yeah, that sounds like every football locker room I had to endure in middle school and high school and college. So no, not shocked.
In the same unit. They bragged that they went above standards, supposedly, and gave them a 3-foot privacy wall that stretches the length inside the 32 detainee cage. A 3-foot privacy wall.
So they don't even have that in the barracks at basic training. You remember seeing the bathroom on Full Metal Jacket? Were there any 3-foot privacy dividers in there? No. For those of you who were in the Army, weren't your conditions worse than this? I know when my dad got a public paid vacation to South Vietnam in the late 60s, his conditions weren't this opulent.
That stretches the length of the 3 toilets in a row. The showers provide no privacy at all. There are no curtains on it. It's a big open shower unit. There are, small walls in each shower.
Wasn't that the weird part about when you played football in middle school and high school? And I don't know if any of y'all did athletics in college. Wasn't that awful having to shower in front of people? Yeah, weirdest thing in the world. Did she ever go to your football camp? Did she ever go to the field house at your high school and be like, oh, this is inhumane conditions. I can't believe we're subjecting our children to this. No, but she will go, screw your children. There's illegal immigrants who have to shower in front of people, and that's just untenable.
But, we're talking about all 900 men who are held in this facility. It is built currently for 1,000.
So it's under capacity? That's a complaint? That's not a grievance. That's actually not a flaw. That's a plus. That's a feature.
And they have no privacy at all when they're showering. For meals, when we walked through the quote unquote meal prep area, the kitchen area, for lack of a better term, they had the portions that were available for detainees, and they had the portions that were available for employees being prepared at the same time. The portions available for employees, large pieces of roast chicken, large sausages, and the detainees' lunches were a small, gray turkey and cheese sandwich, an apple, and chips. And that's it. We're talking about fully grown men being fed very small.
Oh, no. The American citizen ICE employees are getting better meals than their illegal immigrant detention inmates. What's the problem with that? Oh, my God. Can you believe Americans are getting better treatment than illegals? That's inhumane. This is your argument, lady? Have you lost your mind? Can you believe they're eating turkey sandwiches with cheese, chips, and an apple, and these are grown men? Yeah, I can believe that. That's kind of what my kids get when they go to school. And that's what you got. Remember, dude, can you believe they had us eating like that little rectangle pizza that tastes like it was baked on cardboard? I love it too. And drinking chocolate milk at 10:30 in the morning. Oh, no, look, the food's inadequate. Can you believe they treat people like this? That's how they treat our kids. That's how they that's where our kids shower when they go to football practice. That's kind of what our kids eat when they go to the school cafeteria. No, not only am I not shocked at this is the most normal thing in the world. But I'm supposed to pretend like it's a horror show? That's the worst you got? I think we're doing pretty good. I hear that. Hats off to ICE. You guys are doing a great job. Alligator Alcatraz looks fantastic. If the biggest critics in the world can go to Alligator Alcatraz and this is all you got, I think you guys are doing a good job. The recovery continues in the Texas Hill Country. And I'm just trying not to look at it anymore. After a whole week of doing that, it was so nice to have a couple days where I don't want it to be forgotten. I don't want it to be memory hold. I'll keep bringing it up. But it is a drag. I'm not a sociopath. I have children and, I can't even imagine what these families are going through. I can't imagine what these businesses are going through, these homeowners are going through, the people who had their property destroyed. And then also now we're in just a terrible position for some of the responders here. I mean, I dare call them first responders. It was now over a week ago, but now they're just in the horrible position of finding bodies and digging them up. And I don't ever want to have to be in a position where I have to dig up my neighbors, especially children. And so there's a lot that weighs on you, but one of the most important aspects that you can kind of learn from this is, let's go ahead and pay attention to some of the recovery process and learn from it. Number one, how does insurance get rolled into this? Kathleen Halley is my next guest from Bankrate, and she knows a lot more about it than I do. First off, welcome to the show, Kathleen Halley. First step, you get a natural disaster, you want to get help from your homeowner's insurance company or whoever else is insuring your business or whatever. Where do you even start with filing a claim, Kathleen?
Oftentimes, you can file a claim online if you, a lot of insurance companies offer, you can register and then you can see your policy documents, you can file a claim online or call the 800 number for the insurance company and you can file with them.
So what is expected to be covered by homeowners insurance or these insurance companies?
I think the most important thing to remember is standard home insurance does not cover floods. And I think most people assume, well, I got the whole package, the liability and the this and the that, and they assume that they're covered. Well, they're covered if there's a flood in their kitchen, like their dishwasher breaks and floods their kitchen, or some water coming from within the house. If it's a natural flood and water coming from outside the house, standard home insurance does not cover that. So people have to pay out of pocket unless they have a flood insurance policy.
Yikes.
And FEMA says that 40% of their claims come from policyholders who live outside of a flood zone. And that's the important thing to remember is you could need flood insurance and not be in a high-risk flood zone.
Yeah, I've seen those flood maps. You're talking about the X zones.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of those are out of date, but also, we're seeing an increase in a phenomenon known as extreme rain. And a very simple definition is if it rains in one day, what you would an area would typically get in a month. That's called extreme rain. And, that can happen anywhere, not just on the coast, not if you live by it can happen anywhere.
Kathleen Howley from Bank Rate, what's the number one mistake homeowners make when trying to recover from a natural disaster?
I would say that people assume that the mistake would be that they assume FEMA's going to make them whole or help them, with almost everything. They might not expect 100% coverage of reflecting what a flood insurance policy, but a lot of people think that they're going to get a lot of help from FEMA. But the average FEMA claim, and they have all different kinds of grants that you can apply for. By the way, if someone's in that position, I think the easiest way is to download the FEMA app from wherever you get your apps, and it's easy. You can make a claim, you can do all sorts of things on the app. And people assume it's going to be, this huge amount of help, but the average FEMA grant often is something between $3,000 and $4,000, and it's rare to see, or it's not common to see it go above $5,000. That's not going to help you rebuild a home.
All right, real quick, we got about 30 seconds left here, Kathleen. If people need help, where do they get it?
FEMA has an 800 number. Just Google for it, and they staff that number every day between, I think it's 7 and 8 p.m., something like that. But it's open every day, and they can get all their questions answered there.
All right, thank you very much, Kathleen Howley from Bank Rate on the James Show. Coming up next, the New York Times reported over the weekend that Biden's pardons, they were all approved orally. I don't believe that for a second. That's coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.